Welcome to another episode of Hessy and Maven. Raven, don't look so exhausted. I'm Justin.
I'm Raven.
And I looked over at you and you were like, just put me out of my misery.
I'm really tired today. I can't shake it. I've had 2 cups of coffee. Maybe I like to have a third.
Maybe you do.
I don't know.
Mucho gusto. Welcome to another episode of Hessy and Maven. On this week's episode, we have decided to talk about some of our favorite books.
Yes.
Which I'm really looking forward to. We've already done movies. We've already done TV shows. Even though I have to throw out there really quickly because I was looking at the TV show list that I made today.
You've watched some new ones since.
Well, not even new.
Oh.
I should have included it on the previous list and I just didn't. Fleabag.
Oh.
That
Fleabag
is
a great
far superior show than like 3 of the shows I put on that list.
Yeah.
And I'm furious.
It's hard to think about everything you've watched.
It's really hard. Even the movie list. We could do that movie list again, and there's a strong possibility that I'll come up with completely different movies.
Have you gotten through Inuyasha?
Inuyasha? No. Just started Inuyasha. Gang, I've been watching a lot of anime lately, but strictly I'm trying to watch One Piece, and I really do love it. But
there's a lot of episodes.
There's so many episodes. Oh my god, there's so many fucking episodes. And it's really hard. But I do love it. Yeah. I'm on episode 200. And I've barely scratched the surface. TikToks will come up about One Piece and it'll be entire characters that I've never met who are part of his crew. Not just a random side character, they're part of his crew. Yeah. And I'm gee, I don't even know who that is. So it is intense. But the animes that I have watched, Death Note, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Cowboy Bebop were all very short. They were 1 season shows with a maximum of 35 to 36 episodes. The other 2 had 26. But I loved that. Even though, of course, when it was over, I was man, I want more. Or Neon Genesis Evangelion, I wanted the ending to be totally different. I hated the ending. Yeah. But whatever. It is what it is. But I just started Inuyasha, and I really think we should watch it together. It seems really cute and fun. It seems very old school anime, like
Sailor Moon.
The character Inuyasha is so interesting. You guys think you can beat me? Yeah. I am the greatest fighter there is.
Are you watching it dubbed?
Okay, yeah.
Or subtitled? Yeah, okay.
No, I'm watching it dubbed. Only because I would watch it my preferred anime method is subs.
Yeah, mine too.
But
I know
I have such a tiny
hardcore anime people will probably think we're lame for that, but I just prefer.
No, what do you mean?
I prefer sub.
I think sub is the preferred.
Oh no! Oh, I'm so sorry. I prefer dubbed.
Oh.
So hardcore anime people think I'm lame for that.
Okay. I watch dubbed, even though I prefer subs.
The only reason is because if I
have a tiny attention span.
Yes.
And I need to be able to look away from the thing, check my phone, and still hear if something important is happening.
Because I watched a Chinese drama called Meteor Garden that I loved. I really did love. But when I watched it, I had to pay complete attention. 100%. No looking at my phone, no petting Olive for a second and taking my eyes off the TV because I would miss 5 lines of dialogue and have no idea what they're talking about and have to rewind.
Yep.
So, there's a time for that, I guess, but I just prefer.
No, I 100% agree. That's really how it is. Because, I watched, what's it called? 7 Deadly Sins.
Okay.
The anime on Netflix. And it was a time before I realized that there was, that little settings button where you could just change it. Because it just started in Japanese subs. So I was this is it. I have to watch it like this, I guess. Yeah. And I'm glad I did because that show falls into a lot of those anime tropes where the girls wear incredibly revealing clothing, which is totally fine. But all the male characters are oh my god, her boobs are so big. I love them.
I know.
And I'll tell you what, hearing it in Japanese and just reading the sub is so much easier than hearing this American voice go, oh my God, look at her bibs.
Oh my God.
I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, but reading it, so much easier. Because I tried to switch when my friend Goose told me, like, oh no, you just go to the settings, like where you go to turn on subtitles. Yeah. It'll say the languages.
Yeah.
I tried to do it in English. Mm-hmm. Could not do it.
Yeah.
The only time that's not true, where I absolutely must listen to the dub, is Dragon Ball Z or any Dragon Ball thing. And that's only because the voices that they use for Goku and Vegeta are so high-pitched that it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I know you don't really watch Dragon Ball, but you're familiar with Goku?
Yeah.
He's, like, pretty big.
Yeah.
Like, he's not, like, massive, but he's, like, pretty jacked. Mm-hmm. It, like, you hear the Japanese voice, and it's like, and you're like, it's too high-pitched. Yeah. It's just too high-pitched. Like, it makes no sense. So then when he's, like, powering up, it's like, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Where at least in the English, it's like, oh. And you're like, okay, I get it. But anyway.
I would love if we could ever watch Sailor Moon together from the beginning, because I'd like to see really which Sailor Scout you connect with most.
I mean, I have a feeling I already know who.
That you think it's going to be Jupiter?
Yeah.
But do you have much knowledge of Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto?
No, not at all.
And Saturn?
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Only the Origes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, only Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
And that's really it.
And there's Chibi Moon, who turns into the Pink Lady.
Nope.
Yeah, we should watch it.
100%, I want to.
Yeah.
I've gotten really into animes lately, and I want to like continue watching them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I have to make like a temporary Hulu account or something.
Yeah, or we just need to like maybe like pool our money or something and just bite the bullet and get Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
They like rule the world these days.
I'm okay with it.
No, I support them.
No.
They're smart. You can run an entire business based on streaming anime.
Oh, yeah.
It's that popular across the world.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay.
So this week's episode, we're going to talk about top 5 favorite books. And again, just like the movies, just like the TV shows, it's kind of in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we're just thinking off the top of our heads. I'm sure that there are other books that we could have thought about. There's probably a million runner-ups and honorable mentions that we could give. Mm-hmm. But we're just going to stick to, in this moment, here are our top 5 favorite books.
And 2 of mine are series, but they have to be.
Mine are also sort of series, too.
Okay. 3 of mine are standalones, and then 2 are series.
Yeah, I have...
Well, 2 of mine are duologies, but the second ones aren't out yet.
1, 2, 3 of mine are standalones.
Okay.
1 is nonfiction, which is 9 times out of 10 never something that I gravitate towards.
Oh yeah, I don't know that I've ever read a nonfiction book except like assigned to me in school.
Exactly. Yeah, no, me neither. This was an interesting find of mine.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or?
I say we roll the dice.
Okay. Also, each book that I say, I will read the synopsis of, and that way, if anyone is listening to this, you'll know if you maybe want to read it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to be giving you synopses based purely off of my mind.
Okay.
And maybe reading a couple of quotes.
Okay.
But, okay. Ready? 7.
Where'd it go? $10.
Oh, you get the choice of either going first or pushing it off to me.
Okay. You can go first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Make sure everything is good. Okay. So my first book actually was an assigned reading in college. But
is it the nonfiction one?
No, it is not.
Oh.
It's actually right here. People on YouTube will only see me reach off. By the way, we're having a lot of technical difficulties with recording.
Video recording.
Yeah, specifically with video recording. I'm using my iPhone. It's filling up with memory really fast, and then also like sometimes it'll just like get a notification and the recording will just stop. And because we're both sitting down doing the podcast, we don't notice because we don't have a third person. So just bear with us.
The next time I get paid, I think I'm going to invest in a camera.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out, and we'll it depends on. Yeah.
Because having it stop recording really does suck.
It really does. It's a huge bummer. So, our last episode was, the audio recording was about an hour and 10, 15 minutes, and my phone only recorded 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, it's it doesn't even make sense to do that. And then the one before that didn't work.
Yeah.
So, it's a real nightmare. But anyway, yeah, it's right here. It's one of my favorite books. I've kept the college book. It was one of those things that I didn't sell back to the bookstores or anything, which is a fucking scam. We all know that. When you sell your college books back, you get nothing in return. But anyway.
So true.
It is called Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Came out in 1956. So. Old and also very interesting and ahead of its time. So James Baldwin is this American activist, a big civil rights guy. And he actually moved to Paris because he was not jiving with how America was treating black people, especially himself and his family and stuff like that. And it's interesting because the book focuses on the events of this guy, this American man who lives in Paris. And he has a bunch of different events, frustrations, experiences with other men in his life. Particularly an Italian bartender whose name is Giovanni. So the main character is not Giovanni. The main character is David. He's a young American man whose girlfriend has gone off to Spain to contemplate whether or not they're going to get married.
It's a long way to go to contemplate.
Well, when you're in Europe, it's not that far. It would be the equivalent of you're in New Jersey and they're like, I'm going to go to Massachusetts for a little bit.
To contemplate?
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the reason I loved this book is because it has very strong personal attachment to it. It's not just it's such a good book, and it is. It's a genuinely amazing book. James Baldwin has a real poetic way of writing prose. But he meets Giovanni, or the character David, meets Giovanni in a Parisian gay bar. Now, I read this book when I was in college, I decided to double major as an English major. When you have the English major, you had to pick a, minorities sort of, for one of your credit, not for a concentration, but for one of your credits, it had to be minorities based. Okay. So it was either African American literature or Asian American literature or Hispanic American literature or whatever, right? And I chose LGBT. And I chose that for two reasons. One of which was I was dating a girl at the time who was bisexual. The other reason was that I was secretively coming to terms with my own shit. I'm kind of realizing that I'm not as straight as I always thought I was or whatever, right? This book was so fucking huge in my own personal development that it has always been close to my heart for that reason. For example, there was a time in history where the idea of I'm a man who wants to be with other men. That means that you're identifying more with, and this is what it used to be. I'm not saying that this is true. That means, so you want to be more like women. So you want to clean the house, you want to cook the food, you want to do all the woman things. Because if you want to be with men, you're like a girl. And so there's a scene in Giovanni's room where he's just absentmindedly in Giovanni's house. And he's just cleaning up. He's vacuuming. He's tidying things up. And then he has a whole identity crisis where he's what am I, a woman? Why am I cleaning up after this man and all this stuff? And you're oh, wow. This is it. This is the almost self-loathing of being I'm feeling these things that I can't necessarily control. And I don't like it, but when I'm with Giovanni, I do feel good But then when I'm alone, I'm starting to have these second doubts and all this different stuff. And it was just like, man, that book just opens you up to so much like empathy and just like it brings across so much like discourse on same-sex relationships. And it was just like so eye-opening, the entire idea about it. And like you meet so many different people throughout the thing. You meet there's a character who's referred to as the Flaming Princess. And it's an older man who tells David inside the gay bar that Giovanni is very dangerous. And then there's all these different interesting characters that you meet. Obviously you have like David's family, his girlfriend who's contemplating potential marriage. So there's like this ticking time bomb in the background. Like, even though it's like not my usual book, like my usual books, and you'll see from the other ones, are like fantasy and action and all this like really exciting, cool stuff. Yeah. And this book, I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with just the fact that it's very personal and it has like this deep connection to my own personal life and stuff. But it was just huge. That class like really turned things around for me big time. I remember even contemplating. It would have been really hard to do like credit wise in college, but I strongly considered getting an LGBT minor. Just because I was like so fascinated by it. I ended up taking 2 or 3 of his classes. So I ended up taking a lot of LGBT literature. Between that and Shakespeare, that was like all of my English classes. Yeah. But yeah, it was like just so good. And it is very well written. But yeah, some quotes from that book. Sorry, I'm like going through them. Confusion is a luxury which only the very, very young can possibly afford, and you are not that young anymore. This idea that like you're too old to be confused about yourself. Like, yeah. And then like just oh my gosh, there's so many scenes in that book. It's powerful and it's like really intense, you know what I mean? Like it really is like real nuts. Here's a quote. "Love him," said Jacques with vehemence. "Love him and let him love you. Do you think anything else under heaven really matters? And how long at the best can it last, since you are both men and still have everywhere to go? Only 5 minutes, I assure you. Only 5 minutes, and most of that, alas," I don't know what that means, "in the dark. And if you think of them as dirty, then they will be dirty. They will be dirty because you will be giving nothing. You will be despising your flesh and his. But you can make your time together anything but dirty. You can give each other something which will make both of you better forever. If you will not be ashamed, if you will not play it safe." He paused, watching me, and looked down to his cognac. "You play it safe long enough," he said in a different tone, "and you'll end up trapped in your own dirty body forever and ever and forever." So it's like this whole idea of struggling with your own sexuality and stuff. And then like at the end, I kind of forget, honestly. I think he ends up with her, but I'm not 100%. It's been so long since I've actually read it all the way through. Actually, now that we're talking about it, that would actually be really, really good. Whew, boy. Wow. I love that film. It actually ends crazy. I don't want to give away spoilers. You and I can talk about it later, but I don't want to give away spoilers for people who may be interested in reading it. It ends juicy. And I don't mean that in like a sexually innuendo way. Intense. Wow. Yeah, because keep in mind, this is the 1950s. I don't know when the book is actually set in. It might also be set in the 50s. But it doesn't really say when the book is set in. It just says that it was published in 1956. But suffice it to say, I mean, 1940s when What was his name? Fucking. Oh, goddamn. The dad loves that movie. Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh.
Who's he play? Oh, no. Alan Turing.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, cool. Go to jail for being gay, or we have to chemically castrate you.
Uh-huh.
Like, so this is a time period when, like, being gay wasn't just like, oh, like, we're going to make fun of you for painting your nails, or we're going to, like, fight you. Yeah. It's like, no. The government is out to get you. Mm-hmm. And then, like, Western countries, obviously, World Cup was just in Qatar. You know, you could talk about Saudi Arabia and a lot of these more hardcore countries. But, like, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane thinking about stuff like that. Like, oh, gosh. But, anyway, that's my number 5 on the list. And the only reason it's that low, quote unquote, on the list is simply because I haven't read it in forever.
Yeah.
I read a passage of it for a internship opportunity, which, by the way, I ended up not getting. It was so fucking sad.
I know.
Especially because it took them 4 months to get back to me.
Yeah.
But whatever.
None of my choices are that deep.
Totally fine.
Or serious.
This is the only one that is.
All of mine are fiction. I don't read nonfiction.
It's why it made the list.
Yeah.
Because it was so deep and it has like this legitimate like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm reading Lord of the Rings and I'm like, God, I really identify with Frodo.
Yeah. I know.
I'm short and have hairy feet. Like no. Like this is the one that's like.
Yeah.
I fucking love this book because it like.
Yeah.
Helped open my eyes to like, dude, stop fucking around. Mm-hmm. Like you're not straight and that's okay, man.
Yeah.
Like stop burying this shit. Mm-hmm. Like the closet sucks.
Yeah.
Just get out of it, dude.
Yeah.
And to be fair, didn't come out until I was like 29, 30.
Yeah.
But
I hear you.
It was one of the stepping stones. Crazy. Everything after this is a fun time.
Okay.
But this is like, it just happens to be number 5 on my list.
Okay.
But anyway.
Number 5 on my list is a book called One Day in December by Josie Silver.
Okay.
I love this book a lot. Name. One Day in December or Josie Silver.
Josie Silver.
Oh, yeah. Silver is a fantastic last name.
Yeah.
This is an interesting book because I loved it and Alyssa did not.
Ooh,
we normally we normally have the same taste in books.
Yeah.
Except of late, Alyssa is reading a lot of real life romances and I'm reading more fantasy novels.
When you say real life romances, do you mean like they could take place in real life?
Yes.
Or they're like
they take place in like
autobiographical.
LA.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. No, like they're you know.
I got you.
Okay, and this is the synopsis. I like this book a lot because it has a plot line that I'd never seen before. A lot of books have similar plot lines.
Yeah, there's
like Hallmark Christmas movies, they all have the same plot line.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Guy from New York. His flight happens to stop in his small podunk town. There's the girl that he's always loved, and she's still selling Christmas trees.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so this is the synopsis. Ready?
Go for it.
Lori is pretty sure love at first sight doesn't exist anywhere but the movies. But then, through a misted-up bus window one snowy December day, she sees a man who she knows instantly is the one. Their eyes meet, there's a moment of pure magic, and then her bus drives away. Certain they're fated to find each other again, Lori spends a year scanning every bus stop and cafe in London for him. But she doesn't find him, not when it matters anyway. Are you listening?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they reunite at a Christmas party when her best friend Sarah giddily introduces her new boyfriend to Lori. It's Jack, the man from the bus. How crazy is that?
Mm.
What follows for Lori, Sarah, and Jack is 10 years of friendship, heartbreak, missed opportunities, roads not taken, and destinies reconsidered. One Day in December is a joyous, heartwarming, and immensely moving love story to escape into, and a reminder that fate takes inexplicable turns along the route to happiness.
Wow.
Imagine seeing someone and being like, that's the one. Like, that person is meant for me. And then a year goes by, you're like searching for them like at fucking Wawa and Walgreens, and you never see them. And then one day you go to a Christmas party a year later, and your best friend is like, this is my new girlfriend, boyfriend. And it's that person. And you're like, oh my God.
Nope.
That's my person, my meant for me person.
My meant for me person.
And it's interesting because the book takes place over a span of 10 years.
Oh, that's
so like
fun.
10 years goes by,
that's
and it's
really
like what happens for the three of them.
Yeah.
It's really good. I like it a lot. I listen to it on audiobook, and the audiobook readers are British. So it was very enjoyable to listen to.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Does the book start from if it's 10 years, does it start at year 1 and go all the way through year 10, or does it do one of those things where it starts at like year 11 and they're like, listen, grandson, let me tell you the story of my life, and then everything is a flashback, you know?
No, it starts. Yes, I do. Yes, it starts.
My next one is like that.
It starts at year 1 and goes through year 10.
Okay, that's cool though.
Yeah.
Same narrator, or same like point of view.
Two points of view.
Oh,
Lori and Jack.
Tell me more about that.
Lori and Jack. So Lori sees Jack and goes, "That's my mate."
Does it bounce a lot?
Kinda, like every couple chapters.
Oh,
and then it flips to Jack.
Okay.
And his point of view.
I love that.
Yeah.
Really so quick. Honorable mention for me.
Okay.
Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
That book also does that?
They did that, and it was 2 different authors.
Oh.
One author wrote Nick, one author wrote Nora, and it bounced back every chapter. So it would be like the one chapter would end, and it'd be like, and then I saw Nora across the bar, and I was like, what is she doing with that guy? End of that chapter. Next chapter. Well, then I'm standing next to this guy, and I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to be with him, and I can see Nick looking at me, and da-da. So it was like, it would immediately pick up where it left off. Like, it wasn't like, oh, let's retell the last chapter, but from my point of view, it was like, no, we're picking up exactly where we left off.
That's pretty cool.
Brilliantly done, and an amazing movie.
Yeah.
Such a good fucking indie movie with Kat Dennings and Michael Cera. It's so good.
5 Feet Apart, the movie I made you watch.
Yes.
Excuse me, written by 2 authors, 2 women who are married.
Oh,
yeah,
love that.
They wrote another book that I have downstairs. I can't remember what it's called right now, but also really sad and like about some type of terminal disease.
Yeah, well, why not?
Yeah, and
fuck.
And they wrote it together.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, I love that for them, but also that's...
I know. When I'm in a better emotional spot, I'll be able to read that when I'm like 50.
For sure. Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. What's your next book?
Well, my next one is going to have to take a little break because I have to pee so bad.
Okay.
All right. We're going to take a little break right here, and I'll be back in 2 seconds. And we're back. All right. So... my next one is called Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss.
Yes, you like this man?
I do like this man. I like him very much. He has written these things, and they're part of a series called the King Killer Chronicles. However, he wrote the first one, and then he wrote the second one called like The Wise Man's Fear or some shit like that. It's been a while since I've read either of them.
This is the man who was on Critical Role?
He was a guest character on Critical Role in season 1. He played a character named Care. Or his real name was like Carradine or something like that, but he went by Care. Anyway. It's a typical kind of fantasy thing. Takes place in a fictional world and all this kind of stuff. And it does do that thing that I was referencing before where it starts in like what is, I guess, the not modern day in the sense of like technology, but like it starts in like present day. And there's essentially like the storyteller is this guy who is an innkeeper. And he tells his childhood story like this, sort of like a bard, but not a bard, like somebody who's like who writes books, like a, not an author, but more like a scribe, comes into the bar and ends up staying there. And there has been legends of this person who did all these amazing things. And like some people believe it and some people are like, no way, it's too good to be true. And this innkeeper is like, that's me. Those stories are about me. They're all true. I did all of these amazing things. And so the first book goes over a lot of his early childhood. The first like third, maybe half of the book are a lot about him in his childhood with his parents. They're part of this very respected traveling group of musicians and performers called Adimaru. And they train him to be an actor and a singer and a lute player. And a lute, for those who don't know, is like just an old school guitar, like an acoustic guitar, pretty much. And he crushes practically everything this kid does. He does really well. And so they live kind of simply, but then eventually his dad starts trying to write this series of songs about this group of mythical creatures or beings called the Chandrian. And the idea is that like if you speak of the Chandrian, they will find you and they will kill you. Oh. But some people don't believe that they even exist, and like it's this very mysterious thing, kind of, you know, whatever. Unfortunately, he wakes up one day, or he returns to camp rather. He finds his parents and all the members of his troop dead, and the Chandrian seating around the campfire, which has turned blue.
Wow, and like that's terrifying.
Yeah, super terrifying. And so all this different stuff. But eventually he like travels the world, and there's a whole section where he's like kind of homeless, and he's like living on rooftops, and he's like stealing money and stealing food and stealing clothing and just to get by. The main character's name is Kvothe. It's spelled Kvothe. Okay. Kvothe.
You had Daddy read these?
Dad read all the two that there were. Like I said, there's supposed to be a third, but it's been like 5 fucking years, Mr. Rothfuss. Get with it. Anyway. All this crazy stuff happens. Along his travels, he joins a caravan. He meets this beautiful girl, and they're like pretty young. They're like 10 or 11. But it's one of those like, this girl and I connect. Yeah. Like we're destined for something greater. Anyway, eventually they go to he ends up joining he gets enough money and he joins this university, this big Hogwarts style university where you can learn magic, because while he was on the troop with his parents, a person joined the group who was an alchemist, and he could do a little bit of magic and stuff like that. And the book is called The Name of the Wind. And the idea is, think about it like this, like, you know how like in Harry Potter sometimes like there are magic words to do spells, and like it's not Leviosa. How you say the word, if you know the name of the thing, you can control it. So the idea is, if you know the name of the wind, you can control the wind and can control weather. If you know the name of fire, you can control fire. But if you don't say it with conviction, it will control you. Yeah. And then like it does that. Do you remember in The Witcher where she does the little thing where they make the flower die, but then like the girl's hand gets killed also, or like it's not the flower, it's make the rock float, but then either the flower dies or the girl's hand starts to wilt. It's like there's a cost. Yeah, that's how this is too. And he does a really good job, unlike J.K. Rowling. He does a really good job of explaining the laws of magic and how magic works, and how I can only do this little spell and heat this up from so much of a distance, and if I'm heating up iron to iron, that's easy because iron is iron. But if I'm heating up wood and I'm using copper, those are two different elements, and so it's not going to work as well. And so there's a really good explanation of the magic system and how magic works in the world. And then there's so many good like personal relationships. So it's just like the first book is just so well done about I'll tell you what though, the audiobook was 45 hours. It took me forever.
It's long.
It's very long for an audiobook. To put that in perspective, you could read the first 2 Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
In less time.
Long.
Like, it's very long. But it had me hooked. Even though, like, it's not all excitement. Like, there's a whole passage where it's just, like, talking about his classes or talking about him taking tests and how the better you do on your exams, the next year's tuition could be less.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally, like, they do what I wish actual universities would do, where they're like, I don't care if you're good at sports. They're like, if you're fucking smart, you pay less.
Right.
If you're dumb, you can still go here, but you got to pay more.
Right.
You're dumb and you're not really going to amount to anything.
Right.
So it's just like so good. He meets that girl again. Her name is Denna. And so many little things happen between the two of them. Their relationship is so tenuous and like she also comes from nothing. And it does live in a world where like women, in order for women to like really get by, sometimes you have to use your beauty. And sometimes if you're extra, you have to be even smarter than the men in order to use your smarts. But
your feminine wiles.
Yeah. And she plays into that. But it's complicated, and like every time he tries to get close with her, like there's clearly a connection between the two of them, but like every time she tries to get close, or excuse me, every time he tries to get close to her, she's like kind of pushes him away, and it's a little frustrating, but like it was the first book, so I knew that there was and I'm including this book, but I'm including it in the sense of the whole King Killer series.
Very good.
But man, it was so fucking good, and it was like just incredibly interesting. I cannot describe enough how much I genuinely loved this fucking thing. It was just incredible. Like,
I love that.
The way that they talk about magic, the way that they eventually in the later series talk about, there's a whole section where he goes to a camp and he just learns how to sword fight. And it's like he's there for like a year. Yeah. And it's just him learning how to sword fight, and then he becomes like a super fucking good sword fighter. And like in a community where they're like, oh, you weren't born here, you can't come here and learn. Yeah. But he had the blessing of one dude that he met along the road. Yeah. And then he became like one of the greatest sword fighters in that camp of people who live, breathe, and die sword fight. And it's just like everything he does, he's fucking great at. Which is fun, but you also see his journey. You see like he sucks in the beginning, and he gets better and better because he's just like obsessed with learning. So it's awesome. Cute. It's so fun, and he's like really good at the guitar. He does all these things. Like he ends up getting free lodging at a bar outside of the university because he agrees to play in the bar once a weekend or whatever, and like. It's just very, very well done. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I think that he fleshed it out really well.
Great.
Yeah, listening to the audiobook, it was a good like painting the picture kind of thing. Like you could really visualize everything that was going on. Nice. So I really, really liked it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Okay, my next choice is a book I just recently finished, but
can I do a quote?
Oh, please.
Sorry. I had picked out two quotes from it. I'm sorry. One quote is, "Words are pale shadows of forgotten names. As names have power, words have power. Words can light fires in the minds of men. Words can wring tears from the hardest hearts." I like that. And then I like this quote. "You are not wise enough to fear me as I should be feared. You do not know the first note of the music that moves me."
That's good.
Yeah. It's very, very good. You see, women are like fires, like flames. Some women are like candles, bright and friendly. Some are like single sparks or embers, like fireflies for chasing on summer nights. Some are like campfires, all light and heat for a night and willing to be left after. Some women are like hearth fires, not much to look at, but underneath they are all warm red coal that burns a long, long while. He has a great way of writing. It's again like James Baldwin. It's very like poetic-y, and I fucking love that shit. But anyway, Name of the Wind. That's it. Done. Sorry.
All of my authors are women. I think I have a thing where I don't like reading books written by men. I think John Green 100%. Is my exception.
Yeah, no, I totally respect that.
But I don't know what my deal is with that, because John Green's a fantastic author and he's a man and I enjoy his books. But like, for the most part, like I feel like, especially books that are a male author with a female main character, then I'm always kind of like, what are you doing?
That's why I want you to read fucking Turtles All the Way Down, you son of a bitch.
I know.
Because it is a female main character.
I know.
And it's written by John Green.
Yeah.
Because I agree. And I think that it's something that any guy writer is going to struggle with.
Yeah.
Just because, like, you don't
know.
Empathy and, like, that kind of shit can really only go so far.
Yeah.
You can listen to your sister's, mother's, whatever, wives as much as you fucking want. At the end of the day, you don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to put yourself in those kind of fucking shoes to be able to do it and still have it be like relatable to women.
Yeah.
Because I can write a female character and just write it like a male, like I would any other character, and just make gender not a thing at all.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that would work for some people. But then I'm sure that there would be some women readers who would be like, this could be anybody.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it's a woman character is meaningless, because you could easily put in a robot here and it would be the same thing, you know, because you're just.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's a challenge.
Okay. So this next book I recently finished.
Okay.
It's very good and interesting because I've read this author's other 2 published novels that she has, and I thought they were only okay. This book I thought was incredible. I could not put it down.
Interesting.
It's called Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she also wrote a book called An Enchantment of Ravens, which I got because Raven. And I just thought it was okay. But this was when I went to Barnes & Noble, it was like a YA book club recommended whatever. It had its own table, and I was like, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. So this is the synopsis. Ready? The spirits of the dead do not rest. That's like the words at the top, and then there's a little border, and then the synopsis. Are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay. Artemisia, that's the main character, is training to be a Grey Sister, a nun who cleanses the bodies of the deceased so that their souls can pass on. Otherwise, they will rise as ravenous, hungry spirits. She would rather deal with the dead than the living, who whisper about her scarred hands and troubled past. When her convent is attacked by possessed soldiers, Artemisia defends it by awakening an ancient spirit bound to a saint's relic. It is a revenant, a malevolent being whose extraordinary power almost consumes her. But death has come, and only a Vespertine, a priestess trained to wield the high relic, has any chance of stopping it. With all knowledge of Vespertines lost to time, Artemisia turns to the last remaining expert for help, the Revenant itself. As she unravels a sinister mystery of saints, secrets, and dark magic, Artemisia discovers that facing this hidden evil might require her to betray everything she believes, if the Revenant doesn't betray her first.
Whoa, spooky.
Yeah.
Spooky,
interesting.
Scarred hands.
Troubled past.
Wow.
Yep.
The
And
Revenant.
It's interesting because this doesn't reveal anything, really. Everyone should read this book. It's so good. But she in order to fight the people, she becomes possessed by the Revenant. Like she takes it into her body, and then the Revenant and her are one.
Yes.
And the Revenant can talk to her.
Oh.
So a lot of the dialogue in the book is between her and the Revenant.
Yes.
But the Revenant's only in her head.
Understood.
So she like talks to the Revenant. It's like this old ancient spirit, and it helps her do like a ton of like badass stuff. And also look at the fucking cover art because it's so good. This cover art is done by one of my favorite like artists who does book covers.
Yes.
Her name is like Charlie Bowater.
Okay.
Can you fucking zoom in? I'm still learning the intricacies of this iPad, and it sometimes drives me a little bit crazy. Just saying. Oh, here we go. This is the book I told you about where that's Artemisia. Yeah, there's a reoccurring thing throughout the book. It's a white raven named Trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love stuff like that.
I know. It's really good. And it's interesting because I normally can't read a book unless there's some kind of romance.
You've said that to me before.
I need romance somewhere. It doesn't have to be the main plot line, but if there's no romance, I get bored. Like I'm like I don't really care what's happening. And this doesn't have any, and it's still incredible.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommend. That's my number 4.
Very good.
Yes.
My number 3 is by a little known author named Billy Shakespeare.
Oh my god. Okay.
It's my favorite of his plays. It's called The Merchant of Venice. I love it so much.
I hate Shakespeare.
I know you do. So let me talk to you about it a bunch. So Merchant of Venice starts sort of with like, there's like a, what is it called? There's like a court case going on, right? And it's classified as a comedy, which I never really understood those kind of things. Let's be fucking honest. But
yes.
There's like a lot of merchants and business people in Venice and Italy and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And during this time period, anti-Semitism was like kind of a thing, you know? 1500s.
Yeah.
Throughout all of history, being mean to Jewish people was a thing. And there's a quote really quickly. There's a character in here, and his name is Shylock. And it has actually come up in other books, literature, even like articles and like analyses and stuff like that. The phrase of like, oh, this person was very Shylockian or whatever. Like they'll like use that to describe him. You know, like like there was a person in history whose name was Machiavelli, and people will say like, oh yeah, he's very Machiavellian.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like he that like this character became such a figurehead. Anyway, there's a quote from Shylock. So this is Shylock speaking. He was Jewish. And he says, I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? So he's just claiming like, I'm just because I'm Jewish and you're a Christian, I'm just like you. Like we're people.
Yeah.
Because in this like little court case that happens, have you ever heard the expression like pound of flesh? Mm-hmm. Like I want my pound of flesh.
Yeah.
It comes from this.
Okay.
So there's this court case, and I'm not going to get into the super details. It's been a long time since I've read it, but suffice it to say, Shylock is going against this person, this dude. I can't remember if it's Bassanio or it's Bassanio. And there's like this loan going on. Shylock is a money lender.
Mm-hmm.
And Bassanio comes to him and asks for money, and then he can't pay it back. So eventually Shylock asks for a pound of flesh instead. So obviously Bassanio is like, well, I don't want to give you a pound of flesh. That's fucking crazy.
Okay.
And long story short, they don't have like a good lawyer. And then there comes in my favorite character of nearly all of Shakespeare, Portia. Portia is like this, not literally a princess, but like kind of, she's a wealthy heiress. So she's like a noble's daughter.
Okay.
So she's kind of like princess status kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now this is very olden times, so a lot of this stuff doesn't age well and stuff like that. But like, a woman could never be a lawyer during these times. You know, it's the 1500s, and that's when it was written. Who knows when this is actually supposed to take place? But regardless, right?
Mm-hmm.
She dresses up like a man and passes herself off as a man, and then becomes the lawyer and absolutely fucking crushes it. And eventually they find out that she's Portia and all this different stuff. But it was I just remember reading it at the time and loving it. Loving that Portia was not, I mean, yes, she had to undergo this like pretending to be a man thing, but she's the fucking hero. She's the star of the whole thing, sort of. And I just love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love that whole thing. Yeah, that was, I mean,
okay.
That's kind of it. A lot of these quotes are going to get totally lost. Other than that last one, the Shylock, a lot of them get lost because you need to hear them in context. Because when you take a sentence of Shakespeare out of the whole paragraph, like, it gets lost. So, like, there's a line from Portia where it says, if to do were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels had been churches, and poor men's cottages princes' palaces.
Yeah, that was lost on me.
It pretty much just means if it were easy to know what was the right thing to do,
okay, then
tiny little chapels would be huge churches. A poor man's cottage would be a massive palace. Because it's not easy to know what is the right thing to do. And that's like just based on that one sentence. I don't know what the context of that was. It's in the first act, second line, or, second stanza, ninth line. But like,
do you know what I always thought about when I had to read Shakespeare in school?
What? That it was a different language? That
I think that books written in the 1500s were meant for the 1500s, and books written in the 1700s were meant for the 1700s, and books written in 2011 were meant for me in 2011.
Yeah, it's easy to feel that way, but
I'm also not a classics lover.
Yeah, we're still reading Shakespeare, so clearly that's not true, but I understand where you're coming from, because as somebody who loves Shakespeare, I fully recognize that it's like borderline impossible to understand unless you're reading it often.
Yeah.
Like if you were to like really sit down and force yourself to read Shakespeare once a day for an hour a day.
Yeah.
Eventually you'd be like, I'm starting to get this.
I always just felt like like, we were taught Shakespeare and, like, The Scarlet Letter and Huck Finn and all these older books to teach us, like, lessons, right? Like, worldly lessons about, like, themes in literature and, like, real life issues that people were having. Like, and I always just felt like, is there not a modern book that could teach me this lesson? Like, at what point, like, is it going to be, like, the year 3000 and they're still reading Huck Finn? We're just going to read it forever?
Oh, I can't answer that because I disagree with your initial premise. I don't think we're reading those books because they give us lessons.
Why are we reading them?
Because they're important pieces of literature and we don't want to lose them. Because if we don't make kids read Shakespeare, no one will fucking read Shakespeare.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how long into the future are we supposed to read Shakespeare for? Forever?
I would make the argument that Shakespeare is relevant still today. Like, I think that you could get stuff out of Shakespeare that is still relevant today, which is why we're still talking about it. Because we don't talk about everything. We're not going to talk about, like, there are books that were written during that time period. There are people who wrote books at the same time as Huck Finn was written that we don't talk about because they're not good or they don't have universal things that can apply 100 years in the future. But Shakespeare does. And Huck Finn, I don't give a fuck about, so I'm not even going to comment on that. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some books make it, some books don't.
I don't know. I guess we'll just agree to disagree.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree. Yeah.
So I'll have to fight you.
I love Shakespeare so much. I took every Shakespeare class that University of Maryland had to offer. I feel like it's absolute genius.
Okay.
He invented more than 1,000 words that we still use today in English.
I believe that.
So, fucking Mark Twain, suck on that.
Okay. This is my next book. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Go for it.
I would like you to make eye contact with me while I read this.
Okay.
Because if you don't, then I feel like you're not listening.
Okay, I am listening. I have always been listening.
Okay.
But go.
So this book is called Belladonna. Don't do that. You know what I mean.
I don't.
I give you my attention when you're reading the synopsis.
You just say yes, yes, yes.
So that you know I'm listening.
All right.
And I'm looking at you.
All right.
Okay. This book is called... You're gonna make me mad. If there are people watching this, they'll vote in my favor. Okay. This book is called Belladonna by Adeline Grace.
Okay.
And I just found out that you can pre-order the sequel to this because it's a duology, and the sequel is called Foxglove, and I cannot wait until it comes out.
Foxglove, Raven. They're both poisonous plants.
Yep. I know.
Interesting. Belladonna is a form of nightshade. It shares the same family as like tomatoes and bell peppers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm so pumped for the sequel to come out. I never pre-order stuff because I feel like I'm spending my money and then I don't get what I want for a very long time.
What is even the point of pre-ordering?
When I can just order it when it comes out.
Yeah, I never understand pre-ordering.
Anyway, okay. So this is the plot. Okay. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa, which is an interesting...
spelled with a C.
Spelled with an S.
Hate it.
Signa with a C is the insurance company. Signa with an S.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I've heard that.
Yeah. 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and gloomy.
Okay.
Makes me think of the Baudelaires.
Is that a reference to the
series of unfortunate events? Yeah.
Events? Abso-fucking dude.
It's
get out of my head.
Same vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Also, all I can think about is Hawthorns, Thorn Grove. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
Okay. It's Patriarch Thorngrove's patriarch, mourns his late wife through wild parties while his son grapples for control of the family's waning reputation, and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness.
Oh, boy.
But when their mother's restless spirit appears, claiming she was poisoned, Cigna realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger, and enlists the help of a surly stable boy to hunt down the killer.
A surly stable boy? Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny. All I can think about is Hamlet. Because the ghost comes back and says, hey, I was poisoned. Hamlet. Okay. Sounds like your girl took a little bit out of Shakespeare.
However, Cigna's best chance of uncovering the murderer is an alliance with Death himself, a fascinating, dangerous shadow who has never been far from her side. Wow. Though he's made her life a living hell, Death shows Cigna that their growing connection may be more powerful and more irresistible than she ever dared imagine.
This is the one that you were telling me about with Death.
Yep. Death is a character, not just like a concept. And I loved it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's because you fucking love Hades and Persephone.
Yep. I love that plot line.
Death is cool.
I love when Death is cool. Can I read you really quick the synopsis of the one coming out?
You may.
Okay. I don't think it reveals anything.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't care. I'm reading it anyway. Okay.
Okay. Spoilers, potentially.
Potentially spoilers if you're going to read this. Okay.
Bring it on. Come on.
A duke has been murdered. The Lord of Thorngrove has been framed. And Fate, the elusive brother of Death, has taken up residence in a sumptuous estate nearby. He's hell-bent on revenge after Death took the life of the woman he loved many years ago. And now he's determined to have Cigna for himself, no matter the cost.
Oh my god.
Cigna and her cousin Blythe, not a great name, are certain that Fate can save Elijah Hawthorne from prison if they will entertain his presence. But the more time the girls spend with Fate, the more frightening their reality becomes, as Cigna exhibits dramatic new powers that link her to Fate's past. With mysteries and danger around every corner, the cousins must decide if they can trust one another as they navigate their futures in high society, unravel the murders that haunt their family, and play Fate's unexpected games, all with their destinies hanging in the balance.
Ooh,
dangerous, suspenseful, and seductive, this sequel to the story of Cigna and Death is as utterly romantic as it is perfectly deadly. I can't wait. It comes out August 22nd.
That's so fun. And foxglove, as we know, is another plant that is poisonous. And I know that because of
D&D something?
Kane's something or other that you gave me. What's that book with all the pages out of order?
Kane's
Handiwork.
Yep.
Kane's Able. Yeah, foxglove. It kept coming up, and I was like, what the fuck is foxglove? And then I found it in another thing. I forget what, but it came up in another context, and I was like, foxglove keeps finding me.
Yeah. So that book is fantastic. I can't wait for the sequel.
That's really cool.
Anyway, that's my number 3.
All right. My
number 2.
Number 2. Oh, that's right. You made me go first. Okay. My number 2 is my only nonfiction. And it's probably, even if I did top 10, it may be my only nonfiction. Okay. It's Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
A real quick quote. Your body is not a temple. It's an amusement park. Enjoy the ride. I love him so fucking much. I love Anthony Bourdain. I love everything he does. He's very crude and crass sometimes, but I just love his like blatant fucking honesty. His like blunt truth that he speaks. I love that he has certain ideals and rules for cooking and how food should be done, and he sticks to it, and he just is like unapologetic about it. Like he just straight up, like I have several of his cookbooks. One of them, he's like, if you're in a restaurant and you ask for ketchup and they don't bring out like Heinz ketchup, he's like, fucking leave. I don't want your tomato chutney. I want Heinz ketchup.
Interesting.
It's good enough as it is.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this. Or like his entire dessert section of one of his cookbooks is just like, I don't like desserts. I'll have cheeses. Here are a list of good cheeses.
Yeah.
And that's just because like he personally isn't a huge dessert person. I fucking love that.
Yeah.
Like, that's so ballsy to write a cookbook and be like, yeah, I have a dessert section. It starts with the words, fuck dessert. Oh. And it does. That's a real quote.
And there's no desserts?
There's not a single dessert written in his cookbook. Or one of his cookbooks. Yeah. Maybe other ones he does. But I just love his whole thing. Just like, he wrote this. So like he, the whole thing is written as like very autobiographical. It talks about his journey through like the culinary world where he was like in like Cape Cod, slinging. He worked from like the salad thing, he was like a dishwasher to salads to fried foods to this, and he was like working on the different stations, line cook, whatever. He like all the drugs that he did, all of how everyone did at drugs, how there was another restaurant with a young chef named Mario Batali who has come under some fire, not recently, a while ago.
Yeah,
so
some problematic stuff there.
Sorry, bud. Used to like you, but can't let you go for that. Anyway.
Yeah.
And just like all these different things, and it was just like so eye-opening. And it's crazy because I read it at a time when I was in college and I was really struggling trying to figure out my future. And I've always loved cooking.
Okay.
My entire life, right? And there was a point of time where I thought about going to culinary school. I was like, this is it, man. Like, fucking, I love cooking. And, like, I need to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. And, like, I just don't know if being a doctor is it. And, you know, fucking spoiler alert, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. And I don't want to do it. And I have no regrets about not doing it. I just have small regrets about not majoring in something else in college.
Yeah, I do too, by the way.
But, like, it is what it is. So, I applied, toured the Art Institute of Washington.
DC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was close.
Yeah.
So I was in Maryland, so like it was close.
I was just distinguishing between
No, yeah,
state and
not that one.
Okay.
And then I read Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain because Mom got it for me for one of their Christmases. I read the book and he talks about how hard it is, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
Like, and then later, like when I graduated college, I worked at a restaurant and I was expo.
I was too.
I know.
For like 4 days.
I was like for 6 months. And I fucking hated it.
Yep.
And it was so stressful. And I wanted to fight all the fucking waitresses and servers because they wouldn't get their food. And then the thing's getting stacked up. Food can only sit under a heat lamp for so long before it starts to get weird.
Yeah.
So, and then like, so I have to do all of this and finish all of these different plates and like finish that, this one got mac and cheese, put mac and cheese into a little thing, put it on the plate. This one got this, put this, and I don't think this one. Okay, appetizers, this one's getting soup. I have to scoop the soup into the thing, put it on a plate, put the little crackers onto the thing. Yep. Okay. Oh, salads, I have to do all the salads.
Yep.
Fuck this.
Yeah, God bless anyone who works in the food industry like that.
When there were two of us, no fucking problem. I could do it all day.
Yeah.
But when you're by yourself on a Friday night,
yeah,
absolutely not. I wish I was doing cocaine. Not literally, I'm joking. But like, you understand why people are doing so many drugs in the fucking restaurant industry. Yeah. And so reading his thing was just like so eye-opening. And it was just like, it was really just like this guardian coming down and being like, excuse me, it's not for you, bud.
It's not for you, good buddy.
It's not for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So like, he's just writing about all these different things. There's a quote here. He says, don't lie about it. You made a mistake. Admit it and move on. Just don't do it again. Ever. Good food is very often, even most often, simple food. He has a quote here where he says, No one understands and appreciates the American dream of hard work leading to material rewards better than a non-American. He talks so much about when he was hiring like line cooks and like sous chefs and all the kind of like lower positions. Sous chef is actually pretty high, but the lower positions, he was like, if a white kid came in, he was like, I'd be like, fuck this kid, fuck. Give me somebody from Nicaragua. Give me somebody from fucking Ecuador.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't stand white kids in the kitchen. They just don't work hard enough.
Yeah.
And I fully get that.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's this level of privilege. But, like, just everything he talked about was so eye-opening and so fun and interesting. Like, him just talking about... just so many different things, man. Like, him talking about how, like, when somebody would come into the restaurants and ask for steak well done, like, you're gonna get that piece of steak that somebody dropped in the ground earlier in the day. When they, like, you drop this piece of steak and it hits the ground, it gets all grimy and gross, and as the chef, you have a choice. Okay. Do we throw it out, which means we lose money? Do we cook it for like family meal, which is when you cook for all the other cooks and everything, and you guys eat like lunch together, where you lose money? Or do you just save it for that person who wants it well done because they clearly don't know what steak is supposed to taste like? Yeah. We'll cook it so much that they're not going to taste the fucking shoe grease that it touched. No problem. So that's what they do. And he was spilling these like big restaurant secrets. You know what I mean? Like he was like, oh, like, you know, you go to like a restaurant and they have like things of bread and like little rolls in the little basket. He's like, if you don't finish all of the rolls, and let's say there's like 2 or 3 rolls in there that haven't been touched, you didn't like break into them. They're just like fully there. Yeah. He's like, those are getting recycled and they're being put into another basket for another table. And I remember I listened to it on audiobook, which was also amazing because it's Anthony Bourdain reading it. And then he was like, oh, if that grosses you out, you don't even want to know what we did with the butter that was at people's tables. We're putting that in other people's dishes. Yeah. Like, it's not being reused for butter on people's tables. Yeah. But like when a thing is like, oh, put a slab of butter into this to finish this sauce. Yeah. That's butter that has been used on someone's table. Like, I totally believe it. There's a lot of things like that in the housekeeping world that I learned when I was a housekeeper. Yeah. It's totally... You just kind of have to accept that grossness has happened if you're going to eat at restaurants and stay in hotels. You just kind of have to not think about it and it's just like so fascinating. Like, I remember watching Anthony Bourdain when he was doing No Reservations as like a kid and having to stay up so late to watch it because he cursed and he drank and he smoked and all this stuff. But he was going to so many different cool countries and I was just fascinated by it. It was like the first like travel show that I really, really got into because it was so food centered. Yeah. And then... I mean, just growing up with Anthony Bourdain, like that was one of the few celebrity deaths that really, 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 really hit me hard. Yeah. I was genuinely sad about that. Yeah. Really sad. And he wrote some fictional books too. Oh, that's interesting. He wrote a book about how like a chef gets called in to become like a assassin or something like that. Oh, Jesus. And I have it. I own the audiobook. And I just haven't gotten around to it. But his stories of his time in the chef world is nuts. Like, he talks about where he would, like, go into, like, a freeze-in walker, like a walk-in freezer. And there he would, like, open a thing up looking for, like, fish for, like, that night's thing. Like, he's frantically looking around. And it would just be machine guns. Because the restaurant was owned by the mob. Yeah. And he was like, what the closes that and he's like, what's going on? And then like the chef de cuisine, which is like a position, it's interesting position in restaurants, in fine dining, wasn't actually the chef de cuisine. It was just the title that this one guy was given because he was the coke dealer of the mafia, or not mafia, but the mob. Yeah. And one day he fired him. Oh. Because it was like we're giving this guy too much money. Like, this is bullshit. Like, we're losing money. He's not doing anything. I need an actual chef to blah, blah. And Anthony Bourdain fires him. And the Coke dealer actually thanks him. And says, this is going to free me up actually a lot. Like, wow. Thank you for doing this. But it was like no one had the balls to do it. Yeah. Because this is the boss's Coke dealer. Yeah. Like, you're not going to fire this guy. But Anthony Bourdain did. And the boss didn't say anything? Or? No, he was cool with it. Wow. Yeah. Okay. It was like one of those, it's going to go one of two ways kind of thing. And it went in the way of being like, I respect you for standing up to me. Okay. Which is like never really happens. Yeah. It's a wild book. Wow. It is so interesting to read. Just like, man, but then you also hear about his downsides, like the depression, the drugs, like all this crazy stuff. He's doing like heroin. He's doing like hardcore drugs. Yeah. It really, really is intense. He goes to Baltimore. He goes to Florida. He goes and he just loves New York. And then he writes a piece that gets picked up by, I think, the New Yorker is the one who picked it up, where he wrote this confidential, this like, I'm going to spill the secrets of restaurants. And it got picked up and it went in picture in the 1990s, early 1990s, something going viral. Yeah. And then Travel Channel was like, we want to give you a show. And his career catapulted. Yeah. Insane. Yeah. Yeah. R.I.P. Wish he was still alive. So sad. It's so sad anytime somebody commits suicide. Yeah. Because you're just left there asking a million questions and not having any answers. Man, it makes me so sad. Just call somebody, talk to somebody. Like, you have people there, guys. I know. There's also like hotlines and all kinds of resources. But anyway, what is your number 2? Okay. What time are we at? 1:18. Okay, in the interest of time. But also, that's with the break of me going to the bathroom too. So in the interest of time, I'm also starving, and I imagine Mommy's starving, and we got to cook some dinner. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm going to combine my number 2 and my number 1. Okay, because they're by the same author. Okay, cool. So my number 2 is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to make your list. My number 1 is A Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Oh, they're not? They're different. A Court of Thorns and Roses is one series, one world, one set of characters. So they're completely different. Completely different. There's no overlap? No. But they're both a throne of. A court of. Throne of. Oh, okay. Yeah. So many books are a blank of. I know. And A Game of Thrones. This. A Court of Ice and Fire. There's a lot of books out now that I think follow very similar plot lines to these books because Sarah J. Maas's books are so immensely popular. Yeah. I've heard of that name and I've never read a single book of hers. They're so popular. If you're on Book Talk at all, everyone talks about them. There's even like so many TikToks that are like, Sarah J. Maas is like overrated. Like, you should read this lesser known author. And it's like, her books are popular for a reason. Like, it's fine. They're so good. And I recently read a book called like The Hollow Prince or something. I forget. Okay. But that was also recommended to me by Book Talk. And it legitimately had the same exact plot as A Court of Thorns and Roses. And I was appalled at how similar it was. And I was like, I can't believe you got away with this. But anyway. So A Court of Thorns and Roses is incredible. I just like it. This is your second one. Yeah, I just like it a little bit less than the other one. Okay, cool. Okay, this is the plot of the first book. I'm just going to read the synopsis. You ready? Yes. Okay. When 19-year-old Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution for it. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she only knows about from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not an animal, but Tamlin, one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled their world. As she dwells on his estate, her feelings for Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae.
but an ancient wicked shadow over the fairylands is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. All of the magic of Feyre's epic journey and romance is reflected in this enchanting edition of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I clicked on a collector's edition, but that's the synopsis. It's incredible. There's plot twists, there's romance, there's magic.
Very good.
There's like character development that is incredible.
Is this the one that talks about the multiple courts?
Yes.
Okay.
Spring court, summer court.
This is so interesting because Raven and I have like weirdly the Venn diagram as Kamala Harris would love.
Yeah.
The Venn diagram of D&D and this series is like there's a decent amount of crossover. Just because, I mean, like, and to be fair, D&D didn't invent the idea of the Seelie Court or the Unseelie Court or that kind of shit. Like, they fucking stole it, as they do with everything that they do. Elementals, elemental planes, like, heavens and hells, and the abyss versus the hells. Like, so much of D&D is stolen from other folklore and this and that. There's sphinxes, there's this, and whatever, right? But it's nice to have those, like, when you were talking about the different courts of the Fae, what do they call it there? The Fae realm?
Kind of. It's got a name. It's called Prythian.
Okay.
Prythian. Prythian. Okay. Prythian. And it's made up of the seasonal courts, so fall, spring, winter, summer, and the solar courts, dawn, day, and night.
Dope.
Yeah. And it's cool.
D&D has a lot of that.
Yeah.
They don't have... Okay, yeah. We don't have to get into it.
But yeah. No, I know. So that book series is really good. There are 3 of them. There's a little in-between book that she released as kind of like a Christmas special, which I did not like. It's called A Court of Frost and Starlight. Alyssa liked it. I did not like it.
Yeah, cute idea, but...
Yeah, I didn't like it. And then she started a spin-off series of the main character in this book, Feyre, her sister. She did a spin-off book where the sister's the main character, and the sister is my least favorite character, like, ever. So that was really hard for me to read.
Ginny Weasley?
It's pretty much like if Ginny had her own book, and you're kind of like, nobody gives a shit about her. Like, no offense.
You had
Ginny. One
cool moment in the movies, and it was in the 5th movie where we were inside of the Ministry of Magic, and you did that one big spell, and it fucked up all those Death Eaters. That was it.
Okay, my number 1. This is my all-time favorite book series, The Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Nothing I've read has... What?
I was just going to ask which came out first.
I think Throne of Glass came out first. She wrote the first Throne of Glass book when she was 16. Jesus. I think that came out first. And then she might have finished A Court of Thorns and Roses first, because that series is 3 and the Throne of Glass series is 8.
Oh, so that's the one you got for Christmas, where you got like the new one? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool,
I got a box set because one of mine is all chewed up because of Olive. Okay, so I could probably donate those other books, which would be nice. This is my all-time favorite book series. Nothing has ever surpassed it in how much I loved it. Like, I love it with my whole heart. I bought merchandise from the series, like random Etsy merch. This is the kind of series where, like, the books, you're so attached to the characters and you're so immersed in the world. Yeah. Like, when you're done with the series, you're like, what am I going to do now? Like, how can I live without these characters that I've been with for 8 books? Like, I've cried. I've, like, when certain characters die, you're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe they died. Like, there's so many twists. There's, like, it's insane. I know exactly
what you mean. Yes. Okay.
It's so good. It's like the Harry Potter series where, like, when you watch all the movies, you're like, you just go with all these characters, and then you're like, oh my God. Like,
I mean, I remember reading because I read the last 2 books before the movies had come out. I remember reading when, spoilers, Ron kisses Hermione. Yeah. And, like, actively, like...
Yeah.
Like, just, like...
You're like, oh my God.
Smiling because grandma and grandpa were inside of a casino and I was 17. I couldn't go inside. So I was just sat in the car.
Oh, wow. They left you in the car to gamble?
Pretty much. I don't know.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So this is the plot of the first Throne of Glass book in the series of 8. This is the synopsis.
The first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. In a land without magic, where the king rules with an iron hand, an assassin is summoned to the castle. I just love that sentence. She comes not to kill the king, but to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she is released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardathian.
Selena Sardathian.
Mm-hmm.
I love an alliteration on a name.
Me too.
Oh, God, I love it so much.
Me too.
Hell yeah.
Okay. The crown prince will provoke her. The captain of the guard will protect her. But something evil dwells in the castle of glass, and it's there to kill. When her competitors start dying one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. That's the plot of the first book.
I love that.
And the books just follow Selena, the main character, on like her adventures and like all this stuff she has to do for her world and fighting evil. I could not recommend it enough. I've reread this series, I think maybe 3 times. I've reread from start to finish.
Yeah.
It's 11 out of 10. It's so good. And it's awesome because the last book in the series is called Kingdom of Ash, came out, I think, in 2020.
Okay.
When Sarah J. Maas was like 30-something. So you can really see when you read the first one that she was 16. You can see her writing style improve and get more complex. Cool. And like, it's awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it's so good. I recommend it to every single human on planet Earth.
What is the...
Read it.
This could be completely unrelated. Maybe it didn't even make your top 5. I'm just trying to place... Sometimes you recommend books to me and stuff like that. What was the book that you had me read?
By V.E. Schwab.
Yes.
With the multiple Londons.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good series too. I never finished it though.
Oh, I want to finish it very badly. Yeah, I was a big fan. I was a big fan of it.
That book series is really good.
I did the audiobook, but yeah, I liked it a lot. You know what sucks is that I've been recommended fucking what's his name, Brian Sanderson's fucking Mistborn series.
A Darker Shade of Magic.
Like that. Darker Shade of Magic is V.E. Schwab. Darker Shade of Magic, so good.
She's a fantastic author.
I've been recommended Brian Sanderson's shit.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's good. Mm-hmm. The audiobook, garbage. Absolute fucking trash. Yeah. Just the narrator.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the... I mean, audiobook is 50% the writing and 50% the person. It's only 50%
you don't like the narrator.
Good.
Yeah.
And then they went to the bus.
When there's not a good narrator, it's awful.
Did they narrate it when it first came out and they were like, we don't even know if this will be good?
Yeah.
Like, what? Anyway, that doesn't matter. Cool.
So that's my books.
So, my number 1 is Ready Player One. Because I've listened to the audiobook 3 times. There is a second one, Ready Player 2. They came out with a movie. Listen, you could watch the movie. Like, if you're the type of person who you've seen the movie and you're like, oh, it's based on a book? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Read the book. Nothing will get spoiled. Except for, like, some big picture stuff. And I'm not going to go into details about what. But... none of like the challenges that he has to go through to find this Easter egg, like none of that will get spoiled. Like it will feel totally new.
Yeah.
Which is why like I'm the one person who like, because I talked to people who read the book and they were like, I hated the movie. It was nothing like the book. And I was like, I like the movie and I like the book. I don't even think they're the same thing.
Yeah.
There are parts, obviously.
You appreciate them separately.
The Venn diagram is very like overlapped.
Yeah.
But it's totally fine. Anyway, synopsis. In 2045. The planet is on the brink of chaos.
Oh, we're doing
collapse.
This voice?
We're doing this voice. But people find salvation in the Oasis, an expansive virtual reality universe created by eccentric James Halliday. When Halliday dies, he promises his immense fortune to the first person to discover a digital Easter egg that's hidden somewhere in the Oasis. When young Wade Watts joins the contest, he finds himself becoming an unlikely hero in a reality-bending treasure hunt through a fictional, that was the wrong word. I said fictional, I meant to say fantastical world of mystery, discovery, and danger. So pretty much what happens is we're set in the future. Mm-hmm. Global warming, wars, all this environmental shit, oil pollution, and all this stuff. The world is fucked, right? Well, this guy came out with this thing called the Oasis, and it's like virtual reality. It's literally like the metaverse for fucking Mark Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. Except it's good and not corporate-y at all. Yeah. Like, he literally gives it away for free for students to be able to go to public school. Mm-hmm. It's so good. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's like, he would be the one example of somebody who's like, yes, I'm a billionaire, but like, I'm a good person.
Like the owner of Patagonia?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But then he dies. He passes away.
Okay.
And he has a video will, like his will and testaments, and are like a video form, and they get broadcast out to everybody who owns an Oasis monitor.
Okay.
And in it, he's like, when I played video games as a kid in the 80s, I remember there being Easter eggs. There was this old game called Adventure, and this is based on a true story. That's the fun thing about it is that it's set in the future, so there's a lot of like technology that's like completely fucking unreal. Yeah. But it's set in like the real world. Mm-hmm. So there are references to like AC/DC, Rush, like war games, stuff like that. And he's talking about this game Adventure where it was owned by Atari, which is one of the first video game systems, right? Atari. And the creators weren't allowed to have their names on the credits. It was just, this game is by Atari. It's not Raven Britton came up with this game and she helped code it and whatever. Right. It's just Atari. Yeah. So one of the programmers worked this thing in there where in the game you could find this little egg. Mm-hmm. And if you brought the egg over to this other part of the dungeon, it would open a secret room. And in that room, it would just say programmed by this person. Okay. And that is a real thing in real life. Yeah. But also in the story, that sort of inspires James Halliday to where he programmed this big virtual world. And it's like, when I say virtual world, I mean like virtual universe. Like you can go to one planet and it's all sports. Yeah. You go to another planet and it's all D&D. You go to another planet and it's like Lord of the Rings planet. And you can be Frodo and live that journey, or you can be Legolas and you go to this other planet and it's Hello Kitty. You know, like every planet is totally different. And it's just so fucking cool and so fun. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat. There's so much action. There's so much like, it's steeped in 80s knowledge and like 80s culture and lore and pop culture and stuff like that. But it's so interesting, even when you're not like super into it, like you learn a lot, like, and they're based on real things, which is fucking cool. Like one of the adventures, he has to play the game Zork, which is a real game that I've never fucking heard of. And I know you haven't. Zork was an adventure game where on your screen, picture like playing D&D by yourself. On the screen, it would be like, there's a house in the woods. And you would you would type in, go to the door. Oh. And it would be like, you go to the door is locked. You'd be like, okay. Go to the window. Be like, you go to the window is open.
That's weird.
Enter the window.
Yeah.
You enter the house. Oh, there's a goblin, he kills you. And you'd be like, fuck. And then it would start the game over again, and now you know.
Yeah.
So now you know to do different things. Insane.
Yeah.
And the book is one of the things that got me into D&D, because the first adventure is very D&D based. But, like, it was so fucking fascinating. It was so cool. There is romance. For example, there's a couple quotes that I saw here. The first one, talking to girls was out of the question. To me, they were like some exotic alien species, both beautiful and terrifying. And then sometime later, she leaned over and kissed me. It felt like all those songs and poems had promised it would. It felt wonderful, like being struck by lightning. And it's just, oh my God, it's so fucking good. It's also very like nihilistic, because like he has a certain worldview and like the girl ends up having a different worldview. Because like I said, the earth is like fucking dying.
Yeah.
And he's more like nihilistic, and she's more, let's save it. Let's do everything we can to save it.
Yeah.
But man, it is so good. The audiobook is amazing. It's read by Will Wheaton, who I fucking adore. I could not recommend it enough. I'm telling you, if you've seen the movie, blank that out of your fucking mind, because it is so much is different. They changed so much.
Yeah.
Not just, we're not gonna do The Shining, or in the movie, the first like challenge that they have to do is a car race.
Okay.
That never fucking happens. There are no car races in the entire book.
Yeah.
They made it more modern to fit more modern audiences.
Yeah.
There is no car races. There are no going to see The Shining. None of that comes up.
Yeah.
But not only just that, a lot of the big plot stuff is totally fucking different. So I strongly recommend it. It is so fucking good.
I love that.
And good you can get a lot out of it. Like, I've told that to people who had already seen the movie. I'm like, no, read the book.
Yeah.
They're like, but I've already seen the movie. I'm like, no.
Totally different.
No.
Yeah.
Totally different. Yeah. Spoiler alert. Does the good guy win? Yeah. But you fucking kind of knew that was going to happen. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. You knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. You have to pee?
So, like, no big deal. What?
Do you have to pee?
So bad.
Okay.
So, those are our favorite books. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully this works out for YouTube, and you can watch it over there at Hessy and Maven. Please email us at hessyandmaven@gmail.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this week. Please tune in next week where we're talking about something else.
Bye.